you trying to avoid gifting yourself an extra 10 pounds this holiday season? What about giving yourself the gift of health instead? Thank you for joining us today on Return to Eden, where we are challenging you to stay healthy this season. We're also going to be offering you some tips and tricks on how to get there. I'm Kendra Han, fitness and nutrition specialist, here again with Jamie Woodle, integrative nutrition health coach and master of health science education. Jamie, what is the biggest challenge for you staying healthy throughout the holiday seasons?
I think staying away from desserts, probably, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
How about you?
So family time in my family almost always centers around food. And I am the designated holiday chef by my own choosing, of course. So I have a lot of stress during that time, and cooking is also how I manage stress. And then I further complicate the issue by wanting to please everyone around me. So I'll oftentimes go way overboard when it comes to my menus, making 3 or 4 main courses and, various side dishes. And I think one year I got up to 6 pies for our Thanksgiving. There were 10 people there.
Oh, wow. It's almost a pie per person.
Yeah. And 2 of those people were toddlers.
Oh, okay.
So, it can be so challenging during all of the holiday feasting to stay health conscious. That's why we are giving you our Healthy Holiday 8-week challenge.
Yes, we are going to share with you today 8 tips that you can incorporate this holiday season to help keep you focused on your health while also participating in celebrations with family and friends. Number 1 is choose wisely. So choose wisely is meaning to choose vegetables and protein first. We fill up on those first and then eat your carbs or dessert. And this is from some interesting research. So there are 2 studies where they studied how the order of eating impacted your glucose response or your insulin response. One study from 2018 had both groups eat the same exact meals, but in different orders. So the group that ate veggies and then protein, then waited 10 minutes before eating the carb of the meal, they lost more weight and lowered their A1C even more than the control group. And then there's a more recent study. This one was done in 2023, and it was a randomized control trial in which both groups received nutritional counseling.
Okay.
But the food order group received additional instruction on the order in which to eat their foods. And even in this study, the order of the foods mattered. So the group that was told to eat veggies, then protein, then carbs, in this study, they also lost more weight than the other group and lowered their A1C as well.
So the second tip we have for you is bring your own healthy dish to the potluck, which, trust me, I know how challenging this can be. I have been setting out my holiday menus since I was 16 years old. Okay, my recipes have been perfected over more years than I will reveal currently. So when my late husband started his health journey and encouraged me gently to modify those recipes, it was something that was really challenging, a little bit frustrating, and almost insulting in a way, because I am a typical Midwestern home cook. I use a lot of butter and bacon grease, and at that point in time, I was not educated at all in terms of how those things can impact your body if you're consuming large amounts of sugar and carbs. So some of the easiest things that we did to modify those recipes and make them healthier were switching from regular white sugar to coconut sugar. Switching from using lard or bacon grease or even butter in many recipes to olive oil or coconut oil. Rather than using like the canned yams in heavy syrup that I had always used, using fresh sweet potatoes and making them more like a hash with still having a sweet glaze made with honey and cinnamon and all the things we love. So while it was a little bit of a challenge to make those transitions, I can definitely say that since then, it's been several years since we did that, making those switches were things that typically nobody in my family even noticed when it comes to the flavor. Another great thing about you being the one to bring that healthy dish to the potluck is that you're ensuring that there's something healthy to choose from for you. And I know that can be particularly challenging for you in a potluck situation because of your dietary restrictions. How does that impact your potluck choices?
Yes, I really have to avoid dairy. So I usually bring something that I know I can eat just in case there's no other options there. I know there are people who can relate if you have a food intolerance or something you're just trying to avoid. It can feel very burdensome to go around and ask, is there dairy in that? Who made this dish?
Well, and
What's in this
isolating
one?
too. You don't want to offend anyone. And
No.
it's not a lack of desire to enjoy these beautiful dishes that our friends and family make so much as making those extra efforts to have control of our health and wellness and not expose yourself to potentially harmful side effects.
Yeah, and there have been times where I'm trying to decide if I really want to go to whatever the occasion is. And I'm usually like, well, I probably can't eat anything there. Do I feel like making something to bring? Should I just fast during that time? But during the holidays, nobody wants to fast
No,
during a celebration.
not at all.
So making your own meal and bringing it can be a helpful route when you have food or intolerances, or like you said, you're trying to have healthier options on the table.
I will say one thing that I really appreciate about having potluck situations with you is that I'm being exposed to foods that I would never normally try, because like something like that stuffed acorn squash or your broccoli salad, which I think about weekly, have really opened my eyes to the versatility of things that I was intimidated by before. I'd never used an acorn squash, wasn't super familiar even with the quinoa and how to cook that properly. Come to find out, I've been undercooking my quinoa. That's probably why nobody likes it when I make that. So I really appreciate that about you. For us, since we're trying to make these healthier choices, I tend to spend the entire day cooking. Like I cook breakfast in the morning, I set out a light lunch, and throughout the whole 12 hours of whatever holiday it happens to be, I'm in the kitchen, I'm working. So we've started for lunch having a cheese board is what we call it. So by giving my kids some ownership when it comes to choosing the veggies and the fruits that we include, I've been able to gently manipulate, we'll say, them into trying things they've never tried. So that's how we discovered those sugar snap peas. My kids love those now. The tiny peppers that you can get. So they will even ask for cheese board night apart from holidays now, which I mean feels a little bit like cheating when it comes to like a normal weeknight dinner. But again, my kids are getting these fresh raw vegetables and they're having a good time. They feel accomplished by putting together the cheese board and making it look beautiful. And I have an excuse to buy beautiful platters.
That just spurred actually a very happy memory I have of a Thanksgiving, and I think multiple Thanksgivings, where my mom let me be in charge of putting the veggies out. And I'm sure she already bought and knew what was going to go on
Right.
there. But I got to take some ownership and putting it on there. And I remember trying the black olives and putting them on my fingers like
Yes.
kids like to do, and eating them off your
Yeah.
fingers. And still to this day, I love black olives.
I still do the finger thing. I mean, who doesn't?
My favorite things to bring to gatherings are desserts, actually.
Oh, your chocolate cake.
Yes, my gluten-free, dairy-free chocolate cake. I love desserts. I really tried to refine making a cake that I could eat and also enjoy and not feel like I'm missing out. Unlike eating fake cheese compared to real cheese, you know it's fake cheese. It is.
Yeah.
It's not a good replacement. It can't compare. Nothing can compare to real cheese.
No.
But I've found a way to make cake gluten-free and dairy-free where I can still enjoy it.
And I will say, for the record, I am not a cake person. I do not like cake. I would run a foot race to get to this woman's chocolate cake.
And while we're talking about desserts, that brings us to number 3, which is portion control.
That one's a challenge for me particularly.
Yes, if we're going to indulge in less healthy dishes during the holiday season, just be mindful of how much you're eating. So you can use a smaller plate or a smaller bowl. And this is really important for people like me who find some of these unhealthier dishes or these desserts to be very nostalgic. And maybe it's just not Christmas without fudge. So a lot of my happy memories are of my mother in the kitchen making these sweet desserts. She'd make fudge and peanut brittle, and she had these delicious cookies. She called them mint chocolate vanilla wafer cookies, and she would make a bunch and decorate the top, and she'd put them in these gift boxes and set them under the tree. So anytime you wanted a treat, you just go sneak under the tree and open the lid to that pretty little gift box and get out a piece of fudge or whatever it is.
That's something that is a big happy memory for me as well. My stepmom teaching us all to make the Christmas candies. And two that I loved were she would melt butterscotch chips and then use chow mein noodles and mix them all together and just kind of haphazardly drop them on the parchment or wax paper. And they were little haystacks. That's what we called them. And then the other one was peanut butter balls, which is pretty much peanut butter, powdered sugar, Rice Krispies cereal mixed together, formed into a ball, and then dipped in whatever your choice of chocolate would be. So obviously, those are things for me that it's like it's not Christmas, it's not Thanksgiving if I don't have peanut butter balls and haystacks. So moderation is key. Maybe instead of sitting down and making 3 dozen haystacks every season, like I would like to do, we have just a few, maybe a dozen that I will set out for the family just during our feast time.
Sometimes what I'll do is if I feel like I made too many and they're out on the counter or they're right in the fridge and they're tempting me too much, we happen to have an outside freezer and I'll freeze them.
Oh.
And that way it's kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah,
and
not as tempting.
Yeah. And so that helps some people, maybe not all. Maybe you still know it's there and so you keep going to get more and more.
You could also package them up and give them as gifts.
Absolutely. You absolutely could do that. That'd be an excellent choice. So with portion control, you also want to eat slower.
Right.
So even though it's a smaller portion, if you're eating very slowly and you're savoring it, you won't feel like you're gypping yourself out of the experience as well. And I think portion control is a great strategy if you were someone who maybe you're like me also and have a history of restricting and binging. Instead of completely restricting yourself and telling yourself you're not going to have any desserts during this holiday season, maybe just, watch the portion size so you can still enjoy it. I tend to, if I restrict too hard, then I finally break and I eat way too much of it.
Yeah, you kind of gorge on it because you feel like you've missed out. And that was something that I put into practice. You actually reminded me just the other day that when we got that cheesecake to celebrate my late husband's birthday, rather than doing what my emotions would have wanted me to do, which is eat the entirety of the cheesecake as quickly as possible, I just had a couple bites of the filling. I didn't have any of the crust. I just ate a few bites of that filling. I still got to participate in that moment, which was so important to my children, and honor my husband's birthday. But I didn't overdo it. I didn't take it to such an extreme that then I had this overwhelming guilt later that I'd made these poor choices for my body. So the fourth challenge during this holiday season to maintain your health is sleep. And I know we talk about this a lot. I've mentioned in previous episodes that you can go to our Skywatch TV e-magazine to read the article I had put out regarding sleep hygiene and good tips and tricks on how to get that under control. So without diving too deep, a lack of sleep has been proven to decrease leptin, which is the hormone that lets you know that you're full, and increase ghrelin, which is that hunger hormone. Causing an imbalance in those hormones is something that can definitely lead to overeating, just for the simple fact that you don't have the natural signals of when to start and stop. Another thing impacted by lack of sleep is the way that your metabolism functions. So it has been proven that if you're not sleeping properly, not giving your body the opportunity to switch into that housekeeping and healing mode, it also affects how your body metabolizes glucose. So lack of sleep can certainly impact your insulin levels.
And as we know, with increased insulin, you have increased weight gain because insulin really makes your body store more fat.
Absolutely. And that increased weight gain increases inflammation. And here we are on that self-perpetuating cycle again. Number 5 on the health challenges, track your progress. Now, you can do this in several ways. There are apps that help you do it. You can keep a journal, a food diary, if you will. But tracking that progress and your accomplishments is going to build your sense of self-worth and show you that it's truly worth it when it comes to making these small, incremental changes that are really easy to enact in your daily life and during the holiday season.
Number 6 is to set small, achievable goals. So in coaching, we call these baby steps. So if your focus is portion control, make it a goal to use smaller plates and bowls. Or if your goal is to eat slower and more mindfully, you could make it a goal to spend 20 minutes eating your meals. I don't know about you, Kendra, but I am a bit of a fast eater. I don't know if it's a result from being in the military and basically you have to eat. And I have gotten a lot better. But I still tend to eat fast, like it's just another thing I have to do.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. And being a busy mom during the week, there are times when I don't even make a plate. I'm so busy by the time I get off work and get dinner cooked. And then it's time for homework and bath time and lay your clothes out for tomorrow. And so forgot they have a project to get done. And oh, by the way, we have this spirit week. So a lot of times it's just me rushing through, taking a few bites here and there as I'm cleaning the kitchen just to save time. So being mindful, actually setting the goal to sit down, focus on my meal and my family for that 20 minutes is something I'm absolutely going to start enacting in my life.
Yeah, one of my more recent goals was to get as many polyphenols in my diet as I could. Remember, I was making this super nutrition trail mix.
Oh, that's so good.
Yes, and I was eating the rainbow, and I try to do this all the time, but just for this particular phase, I was really hyper-focused on polyphenol content and trying to get as much as possible. Well, there's still residual from that. Maybe that's not my baby step focus right now.
Right.
But now I have new recipes.
Yeah.
I have new tips and tricks and snacks that are now a daily part of my routine going forward.
Yeah, so by taking those baby steps and focusing on one area in particular, you're incrementally changing your habits and your relationship, not just with food, but with yourself and with your family and how you relate to each other during meal times or even grocery shopping, which I know can be kind of a struggle if your focus is really on trying to be mindful in terms of your health. Challenge number 7. Like with most of our programs, we cannot say this enough, be good to your gut. Eating fermented foods, taking probiotics, and just being overall mindful of that gut microbiome and how that contributes to your health and wellness overall.
So maybe while you're at a celebration or you're with some family gathering with a big dinner set before you, focus on what things you can put on your plate that will help feed those good microbes that we want to multiply. And so vegetables, anything with a lot of fiber, beans.
Yeah, protein is another thing that you've mentioned before is really beneficial when it comes to feeding those healthy bacteria that already exist in our bodies, ideally.
Our final challenge for you is to shift the focus from being food focused to family focused.
Yeah, focusing on your family rather than the food is something that is incredibly valuable. It's potentially we only have 18 holiday seasons with our children if they move far away or if we move or start traveling in our retirement years. So incorporating that family time into it is a huge deal. One tradition we had in my family for a long time was I would make these little rice donuts for Christmas morning. They're called challahs. And so something that my kids had a fun time with when they were much smaller was mixing up the yeast and cooking the rice and putting it all together in the bowl. And then we'll pick out the cover for the bowl. And then in the morning, all you have to do is just scoop those and fry them up or bake them or air fry them if that's the choice that you would have. So including your children and your family members in the process can be a great tool on not just focusing on your family time, but also incorporating things that you maybe wouldn't have tried before, like with you and I.
That's an excellent point. When I think about what my kids might reflect on as adults when they think back about the holidays, I really hope that they have a lot of happy memories of being with family and not just food. Food's going to happen anyway.
Right.
But also being with family and having a healthy family dynamic where there's not a lot of drama.
Laughter, playing games,
Yes.
little family traditions like advent calendars
Yeah.
or stocking stuffers and those kinds of things are some really great ways to connect with your family without the focus being on consuming food.
Yeah, in our family, I remember one year I went to one of the craft stores and I saw this gingerbread. I mean, it's big. It sits on a shelf or a table, and it's a little gingerbread house, and it has 25 little drawers on it, and it's super cute. And I saw it one
That's
year, and I
adorable.
was like, that would be so neat to have. Well, the next year, it was 50% off.
Yes.
And I was like, this is an investment.
It's
for
a sign.
memory's sake. Yeah. So I bought it, and every year I get to pick out what's going to go in it, and the kids love to, they take turns opening it. Or some years, if we can, I'll put double in each drawer. And
Oh, so everybody gets it.
Yeah.
I have a friend actually, and instead of putting like little toys or candies or anything in her advent calendar, she puts activities. And so one day it'll be, we're going to make clay ornaments. And then another day is, let's go have a snowball fight, which if you're in an area where snow isn't something that happens very frequently, they do sell little kits. I actually bought one last year for all of my children to have like little foam snowballs and play like a dodgeball type game, which with them and their cousins able to do that, I know that's something that they all enjoyed so much. And I am like you, praying that when they look back on their Christmas and their Thanksgiving seasons, they're able to remember those moments that were filled with laughter and joy, and not just that mom is the best at making turkey, even though she is.
Well, and I think even for ourselves, you know, sometimes we get so busy and in the rush of, oh my goodness, I got to make this for that event, or even for, let's say, Christmas Day, I have to make all these dishes. But really being mindful and having your children participate. And you don't want to have all of these Christmases end up being a blur
Right.
when we're older and all we really have left are memories. I want to be able to remember chopping vegetables with my kids or helping them arrange the charcuterie board or whatever appetizer. I want them to be a part of it. I want to have a lot of happy memories of doing things during the holiday season as a family, not just food and meals and things like that.
My oldest actually told me a story that touched my heart tremendously this week, really. And he said, I was peeling carrots. I was making a roast. And so I was peeling carrots at the sink, not really thinking anything of it. And he came in and he's like, Mom, I remember this one time you told me that I was the best potato peeler ever. And I think about it every time we have potatoes. And it was just a comment that I had made to little 3-year-old Bear. And it never occurred to me that that would be something that would touch him and give him such a sense of accomplishment. And he now, at 13 years old, is always willing to help in the kitchen and can even cook several dishes himself. So it pays off. Teach your young kids to help. Give them the opportunity to show you that they can do it. And in that way, you're acknowledging your own need as the parent who maybe takes on for themselves the responsibility of meals. In that way, you prioritize your own experience during the holidays as well. Because as caregivers, we also deserve to have some rest during the holiday season and be present with the people that we love tremendously. Thank you for joining us for our 8-week holiday challenge episode of Return to Eden. As always, we would love to hear from you. If you have a question, a comment, or a specific topic you'd like to see us discuss, leave a comment below. And if you're curious about our products and have any questions, you can give us a call or visit us at edensessentials.com. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.